And we are live. Hey, so welcome to episode 157 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we have the usual suspects. We have Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here.
I am not Kaiser Soze.
No, he is not Kaiser Soze.
Are you
You're
sure?
like Mr. you're more like Mr. Kobayashi.
Yeah.
Mr. Kobayashi. You're much more like Mr. Kobayashi. Mr. Soze is very real and very determined. We've got John K. Alvarez, who thinks it's St. Patrick's Day because he's in a field of clovers, so he's about 6 weeks off. But who knows? Tomorrow, that stupid groundhog may tell us it's going to be an early spring, and that might happen too.
I was trying to figure out how to work in Cloverfield. That was the closest thing I could think.
I figured that. Yeah. All right.
I was explaining it to the slower people like me.
You could have said like Matt Reeves' assistant, or assistant.
Oh yeah,
AD. You could have went with Matt Reeves. You could have went with JJ. Well, no, maybe not JJ.
The monster stunt double.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I would take that job. That's the thing.
yeah, it's a gig. Hey, man, it's a gig. And then we've got the kaiju box hero.
Put your hands in the air, cocksuckers.
That's it. Give me the fucking keys, you fucking cocksucker motherfucker. Knock it off.
To be a kaiju box hero.
Give me the keys, you fucking cocksucker. Give me the keys, you fucking cocksucker. In English, please.
Eric was my friend.
He'll flip you. Flip you for real. So, at the beginning of... here we are at the beginning of year 3. Year 3 has kicked off for An American Werewolf in New Jersey. And one of the things that Kaiju Box Hero said in the get-go when this first started was to be careful with not laying out too much content, so on and so forth. And that, because the thing that I do isn't as plentiful as, other, libraries of content. It's not as big a thing. And so I thought about it, but something, I mean, here we are and it's year 3 and there's so many that I haven't even talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And so we start out last week with, the first one of the year, I think it was on the 10th. That was about 3 weeks ago, actually. Jesus, time flies. Dawn of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we done since then?
We did the hangout sesh. We
did the hangout sesh. We did. I did a couple with Sydney for the menu, and then You Won't Be Alone. We redid this past Sunday, which was a lot of fun. I Trapped the Devil. So that was bringing I Trapped the Devil to 2 people who hadn't seen it, and other people in the chat who hadn't seen it. That was worthwhile. But I'm for going, at least for a limited burst, all fucking flat out with some films, which I'd like to get covered. So in the extreme near future, like the next several weeks, if you guys are interested, I'd love to have you on board as always.
Depends on
I'm talking about maybe Exorcist 3.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Which is something I've wanted to get into for a while.
Same here.
Mr. George C. Scott.
I'm talking about Midsommar.
Never seen it.
If you don't know that,
There you go.
yeah, Ari Aster's backup, which is actually to me the equivalent of Egger's backup or Egger's follow-up to The Witch, which was The Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
You go in watching The Witch, and then you're like, wait, you start watching The Lighthouse, and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't The Witch.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
Okay.
Which now I own a copy of The Lighthouse. I bought a copy for $5. Find it on DVD for $5, and now I'm like, okay, I kind of see it. Ari Aster hit us with Hereditary right between the fucking eyes, and then he followed up with this, which is available on Prime, and we'll get into that. And there are quite a few other. I really wouldn't mind if it's available in the very near future. Getting into War of the Worlds.
Yes, please.
There you go.
Oh, sure.
That's just a couple off the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm for throwing some fucking meteors, at it right now, because it's been 3 years and I don't feel like fucking holding back. But this week,
You've held back.
yeah,
I didn't think so, man. I thought you were going really well. Like,
no, well, I mean, there's just so many, just in terms of selection, in terms of selection, and that kind of thing. But there are so many others out. There are so many other fucking ones out there that I haven't even bothered to pull off the shelf yet. That and let's start knocking some of those out. Now, as it pertains to this week, that brings us to where we are now. Matt Reeves. I wouldn't quite put him in the category of a Zack Snyder, but he's a pretty good fucking director. I've enjoyed, and I've got it around here somewhere, I think his Planet of the Apes trilogy.
Yes.
I enjoyed that.
yes,
Yeah, he did the second and the third one. Yep.
Yeah. The Batman. The Batman was pretty good. It was pretty good. I'll take a Nolan movie over it. I'll take a Snyder movie over it, but it wasn't bad.
No.
It didn't hold up quite as much the second time when I watched it, but I own a copy. It's one of those things when they drop, they're like $10 when they first drop or something like that. Those big mass, drops that they have. And the parts of it that are okay. Colin Farrell was really good as the Penguin. Paul, it was about 30 minutes too long. And it was a little too mopey. Little too emo for me, but it wasn't terrible. Not far from the worst thing. There have been worse Batmans out there than that. But that brings us to where we are tonight for Matt Reeves. And like Snyder, when I went through some of those lists, I talked about the one that we were going to discuss, which was Dawn of the Dead, which I said was universally loved. And I think, again, among most horror fans, this is probably his best known film. And that's Cloverfield from 2008. So if you guys are ready, shall we?
Do it to it.
Ellie Forth, man.
Let's go.
Boogie woogie. So this movie is from the found footage genre. And I think I was saying last week that when you look at movies like this and you look at movies like the Blair Witch Project, they were really, like the Blair Witch Project was 25 years ahead of its time. Because now everybody just records everything. And so if you were to drop found footage today, it would probably be like, okay, someone finally made a movie and just recorded everything on their phone and then threw it together into a movie and that kind of thing. Back then, 2000-ish, that kind of thing, people didn't necessarily get it, and they were just like, huh? It's hard to watch and, this, that, and the other. And then there were people who just loved it, like me. And I think a lot of you guys, Bill was there for number 3 in the Blair Witch. And then you started to get into the Paranormal Activity films. And I've got all of those. I'd love to get into those one day.
Never seen them.
Really?
Really?
Got to see the first one. It's worth it.
Yeah, they all are. To me personally, I think that they all are. I've got them all on Blu-ray. They're just they're fucking phenomenal. But then there was this one. And it starts out with an idea from J.J. Abrams. And if you know me, I'm not necessarily a fan of Abrams. But he talks about this idea that he had when he was in Japan and he saw, in modern, society, the reverence that Japan still had for the kaiju, for Godzilla, the king of the monsters. And we talked about Godzilla all last summer. And he said, wouldn't it be cool if America had something like that too? which sort of branched off into this idea that he puts together, I think, with Drew Goddard. I think Drew Goddard was one of the writers on this. He gets Matt Reeves to direct and develops this super secret film that, even a lot of the actors don't necessarily understand everything about what's going on all the time. They're not allowed to disclose what's happening all of the time. I think almost up until the point that it was released, the audiences didn't understand what exactly it was the movie was about. But I remember I didn't see it in the theater, but the first time watching it, I'm like, holy shit, this is fantastic.
I saw it in the theater, and with that surround sound and just watching it in the dark, it was amazing, dude.
I remember the first commercial I saw from it. I don't think it was the Super Bowl, but it was like something of that event, because you just saw the footage of them on the roof and the building exploding and them running out in the very beginning, and it ended up with the Statue of Liberty's head sliding down the street.
Yeah, I remember.
And then they just gave the date. They didn't mention a name, and in my head, I'm like, oh, now I want to go.
I used to work in the city, and I couldn't wait to see this movie, but the reason was I used to drive up and down the turnpike, and just outside of Newark Airport, just out of the blue, there was this billboard of the Statue of Liberty missing a head and claw marks and the date. And that's all there was. And I was like, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be good. I was so excited to see it. And I went to the theater, and boy, oh boy, did it pay off in spades.
That's still one of my favorite movie posters. Just, the Statue of Liberty with no head, and that's it. You see, the everything else in the background, but it's simple, but it tells you you're in some deep shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and especially coming off of 9/11, they did I saw there's a behind the scenes doc. There's quite a bit of behind the scenes going on in the special features here, and they talk about how they researched a lot of the street panic that occurred during 9/11 and the processions of people and people, trying to get away, and then people ducking into buildings, and then, trying to duck into the subway, to get away from these, awful things that are happening. I'm
sorry, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say it rings accurate.
Yeah.
When the Chrysler building crumbled and you saw the wall of smoke.
Yes.
First time I saw that, I almost started hyperventilating because it took me right back to that footage type deal of seeing when the buildings came down and you saw like smoke coming down and everybody ran into like a building.
Yeah.
One guy recording it, and you just saw it blow down the street. That's what got me.
Yeah, and this goes right back to Japanese kaiju. The whole reason that genre exists is for the psyche to deal with tragedies, whether they're typhoons or, a bomb going off in World War II. They dealt with that through their media and through these kaiju stories. So right in the middle of that scene when we were watching it in the film, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's exactly why they're doing it, to invoke that so that we can, process that.
We can process it. I remember critics complained about it.
Oh, of course.
There's some things he's saying it was too soon type deal.
7 years.
I know, but at that point they felt it was late. But I'm like, no, I disagree. It got you right to that level. It was a realistic scare.
Yeah, but the thing is, too soon. Like Bill said, 7 years. It's not like when Spider-Man was coming out, and they had to get rid of the trailer that had the two towers in the spider web. That's different. This is 2008.
Yeah, it wasn't like 2002 when people were saying, don't name the two towers, because it reminds me too much of the World Trade Center,
I still hear people that, though, invoke that too much kind of thing. I heard somebody the other day say that the Man of Steel with terraforming scene is happening, and Fishburne is holding on to that girl in the building, and they're all going to die together. He's not going to leave her. And the one guy is he's still trying to, pull the fucking lever her out of there, and he said to this day that still reminds him of. And he's like, he goes, when I saw it, it was too much. He goes, that was too much for me. I think it's fantastic. I can see where he says that. I'm just saying there are people there that are always going to feel that way. You know, and you got to keep moving forward. Hold on a second. Slasher Fred, what's up, Fred? This movie is almost like Godzilla meets the Blair Witch Project.
There you go.
I think that what makes the original Planet of the Apes film such a classic, it was written by Rod Sterling. And the plot twist, of course. Speaking of Sterling, if you guys ever seen the Twilight Zone episode, I Shot an Arrow.
Yep.
Where these astronauts crash on what they believe is another planet, and the plot it inspired Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Sure. The giant bugs, freaky scene, so on and so forth.
I actually thought the poster for Cloverfield was a takeoff of the original Planet of the Apes at the ending of it.
Yeah.
Because you saw the arm and the head in the sand, and that's what was missing in the poster.
Yeah, that's iconic too. You can't miss the.
That's why I thought I was like, I said, who mirrored this?
Yeah,
you know, that was a great touch.
Yes.
This is one of Matt Reeves' earliest work. I mean, even before Hot Tub Time Machine or things like that. This is actually quite a flick. I've seen it many times and enjoy it. There's never been a time that I've watched this where my attention is wavered. It comes in, I think, at just under 85 minutes. It's extremely lean. It's the story just keeps moving. And the trick of it is, to me, is that it starts off with these characters. You got Rob and you got HUD, TJ Miller.
Yep.
You got Lily. You got Marlena. I loved Marlena. So Lizzie Kaplan. I thought she was great in this. She was a great foil for HUD. Going back and forth. I
noticed her as an actress.
Yeah.
I'd only seen her. I think it was Mean Girls was the only other thing I seen her in.
I never saw that. One. Okay. But the thing of it is that it's got a great. It's got a great. I don't know what you would almost call it. It's almost got this 90210 kind of vibe to it for those that are old enough to remember that. It's got these this throwaway kind of story. It starts out with, and you got Rob, and he's with Beth, and they're together, and it's just this lovey-dovey thing, and then next thing you know, they're having a party, and then Rob and Beth are having this argument because he hasn't called her back in weeks, and you're just like, okay, this is some late 90s, early 2000, Luke Perry bullshit, but it's just enough. It's enough with the humor of TJ Miller, the deadpan of Lizzie Kaplan, to keep it going.
Yep.
Yeah.
It keeps you going. It's the stupidest story imaginable. Rob and Beth had sex, and you're just like, who gives a fuck?
To rescue his girlfriend. That's it. That's all that you need.
Yeah.
Is that one sort of problem to be solved? But you got all those roads they have to go through to get there.
Yeah, and you don't see it in the beginning. You don't see it in the beginning because it's all being played on the videotape. So it's the videotape of them together, and then you find out that TJ Miller is recording over the videotape. No one
TJ Miller would.
Yeah, they didn't change up the tape, so it's interspersed with these little 3-second vignettes, from them having a good time in Coney Island. And then it drops it for a while. I mean, this goes on for a good 20 minutes. It sets it up for a good 20 minutes. I think at the 18-minute mark, all the guys are outside, yelling at Rob at what a douchebag he is. His friends are telling him, you gotta fix this. This is a once in a lifetime thing. You don't send this one back kind of thing. And then all of a sudden the shit just hits the fan.
Yep.
And I literally just watched it today. Today's my last day before I have to go back to work.
I just finished it like an hour ago.
Okay, and
30 minutes ago.
I couldn't believe. I actually jumped when the fucking building started to shake. It literally caught me. Honest to God, it caught me. I'm like, oh shit! It fucking got me. Okay, and then all of a sudden, the panic sets in, and there's this idea that there's some kind of terrorist bomb, going off, and that's the natural assumption because you're there in Midtown. Yeah, that's not what it is at all. And yeah, I mean, it's just I still can't think of what the word is. It's almost I almost just want to say a lure or some kind of bluff, or it's like a false sense of whatever. Because
it lulled you with the mundane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost kind of puts you to sleep.
Yeah, the point about it was even in the beginning when they were talking about the lovey-dovey thing in the bed, and I've never been to Coney Island, it was average conversation that you would see on these type of tapes.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, that's why I jumped too when the building started shaking. Because you were like, it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, because they set it up with the lights going off.
Right.
So something's going to happen. But see, that's what's a great jump scare is. Even though you're expecting something, it still gets you. And that's what makes jump scares to me more fun.
Right. And it was a jump scare with really nothing. It wasn't like you didn't see the creature then or something like that. It was just that's a natural sound that all of a sudden shook you out of the mundane.
Yep.
That all of a sudden made you stand up. It was brilliant throughout the whole movie. They had moments like that made you pop.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing of it. I mean, they just go rushing out rushing up onto the roof. And, you're just watching all these things. You can't really see it.
You can see this flipped over tanker. You're going to go and check it out. It's just natural.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, it's, I mean, all of a sudden shit just starts exploding and like flying out. It looks like a war.
That's a really good moment right there that they set up because everyone's still staring and it takes them a while to realize, oh shit, that stuff's going to hit us. And then all of a sudden they're heading through the stairs.
They're yelling, run. Pure panic.
Yeah. And I thought it was good that it was a young crowd. I don't know that this would have worked necessarily the same for, an older, sort of, setup, kind of thing.
It wouldn't have worked with cynics. When you have a young crowd, there's an automatic feel of hope.
You don't have that curmudgeon guy telling you what you should be doing. And, back
if it was me on the roof, I'd be like going,
war, I used to, none of that.
Yeah.
I'd walk down the steps. We're done.
Yeah, I can't run anymore, that kind of thing, So, I mean,
it's a bunch of millennials, and you're getting caught up in their nonsense drama, and then all of a sudden they're put into this high stakes situation, and it's pretty good how young 20-something people react to suddenly their comfort zone goes away. They're no longer kings of the world, 20-something living in New York. Now all of a sudden it's life or death.
Yep.
And that was a really good depiction of how they all sort of reacted. Some of them folded, some of them stepped up and were heroes. It was accurate as fuck.
I think what I really liked about it actually was that once they got down on the street, all the excess characters just sort of melted away.
Right.
Like all those people from the party, you never really saw them again.
Right.
Like they were just gone, and then all of a sudden it started to focus in on these guys.
Yep.
HUD, and that was basically about it.
Yeah.
And then all of them,
I was saying there were 5 of them, and then
yeah,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, the shit just keeps hitting the fan. And then all of a sudden, the fucking Statue of Liberty, the head just comes fucking flying.
Yeah, it's like a softball just getting lopped out of there.
Yeah, and I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, "What the fuck?" That was living back in Ventnor. This was a long time ago, and it kind of takes your breath away. I mean, you can't really understate how good the actual visuals are in this. They're actually really, really good. I don't think that this was a huge budgeted production.
Now, why can't MCU movies have as good a CGI as this thing?
I have no idea.
Actually, I think one of the things I liked about this movie, it wasn't as much CGI as it could have been.
Right.
I mean, like, even with moments like this, with the Statue of Liberty falling into the street, there's none of that aqua green color to it. It looks like it looked very realistic. And my favorite part of that whole scene was when all the millennials took out their cell phone and started taking pictures.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I loved that because it kept it right in the real world. Like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Just click. Let me get a selfie. It's like, but that's really what made it work. You didn't need the CGI for that. That was them. That's what brought it out.
Whatever the visuals company, whoever they were for this, did a bang up job.
Yeah.
Just did a smashing bang up job. I mean, everything was just very gritty. Some of this was filmed in New York. Some of it was filmed on a studio lot out in LA. These sorts of things. If you did see, have CGI, it was this sort of thing with, the Statue of Liberty head, the creature, the parasites, these sorts of things. Because they talked about how they tried to use the parasites almost like on a kind of stick. Kind of thing, to interact with the people in the tunnels, but they said it didn't look right, so they ended up just going green screen with that. But it's still damn effective, and I don't know if it's because of the dim lighting, and it all basically takes place at night, and you get these very small glimpses.
Yes, and the quick cuts of it, I think helps a lot.
They're not long shots.
Exactly.
They're not long shots at all. You get a quick look, like a really heavy, but really intense look at this, and then they've already moved on to the next thing. The entire movie isn't spent, in some, other universe, or kind of thing. It's not dependent on that type of computer generation.
And it added. I'm sorry. Go ahead, dude.
I was just going to say, I just scrolled through the special effects credits, and there's at least 100 names on there. So if they had any money doing this movie, it all went to them.
See, when I was talking to students about this in class one time, and they were complaining about like the handheld shaking of the camera, I turned around and I said, here's a secret, okay, in case you didn't know. The reason why the camera was shaking, because the guy was fucking running for his life. Excuse my language.
Right.
But it's that attitude of the camera shaking and the people taking the sense of realism that was added to this is what really, to me, sold it. Yeah. I was glad I had more scenes of that than scenes like you were talking about. You see the creature real quick and start running. Why? Because if I had a handheld camera and saw a creature, I'd fucking start running.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because
jumping ahead a little bit, I think
it made you as if you were holding the camera.
Yeah, though jumping ahead a little bit, I think the most effective scene was in the helicopter at the end.
Yeah.
When shit's really going down, and
yeah.
the helicopter's going down, and you feel like you're looking at your friends, and you're the one praying to God, your HUD, as everybody's crashing. It was really effective.
And that's I thought was a great way of pulling the audience in, making them like the fourth character or the fifth character, whatever it was.
This is much more effective, and I love what he did with it. But with the MonsterVerse, by and large, that we discussed this summer, 2014's Godzilla, I'm much more invested in this film than it. I mean, I love Kong Skull Island. Don't misunderstand me, but this movie just grabs you, man. It's got a visceral, sort of gritty feel to it, and it really doesn't let you go. There's no downtime here. There's no long, ridiculous speeches or people announcing evil plans or these sorts of things going on. It's just shot after shot after shot, interspersed with humor. The backdrop between the tape as it continues to splice between the month before and what's going on then, and a really good script.
Yes.
It's actually a very good script. I would argue, and maybe this is a hot take, that in many ways the HUD character is both one of the strongest characters, maybe. I don't know, because he is the guy recording. But then again, he spends an enormous amount of time just yelling Rob.
Right.
I noticed that like he spends like half the time is like really funny shit, and then the other 15% is just him yelling Rob, 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 and you're like, oh my god, dude, just fucking stop.
No, man,
Stop
it's
that.
effective because then you put yourself in the shoes of Rob.
Yeah.
You're in this high stakes situation, and you got Rob, Rob, Rob.
Yeah.
He's getting annoyed with.
Mhm.
It's like multi-layer acting because he's dealing with these larger issues. Giant monster. My girlfriend's stuck in her apartment. People are dying all around me, but you can also see the annoyance on his face every time HUD wants his attention. It's
And
really good.
And that helps
It's really
later on
well
when
directed.
HUD breaks down. You know, that scene where everyone's running away and he just stops, and the camera goes down towards the ground, and you can tell he's just having a breakdown right there, and he has to be consoled.
Yeah.
He can't deal.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
Well, no, you were talking about it with from other movies and such. I'll even go a step further and say, even in the genre of the found footage, this stands out.
Yes.
Because of the way they used the found footage or recorded the found footage.
Yeah.
This
was bold. This was bold. This was bold in its scale. These weren't small things that were happening inside of a house or a nondescript wooded area. This was the entirety of New York City. I mean, this took guts. This was a good fucking movie. I love the go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You were talking about the script. I was just wondering how much was improvised. I mean, how much of the dialogue?
I imagine a lot. Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, only because of the way they handled it. I sat there. If this was rehearsed lines to make it sound like they were improvised or just coming, God bless them, because that's hard to do, to make it sound like it's that organic.
Yeah.
Well, dude, that's just 3 words: T, J, and Miller.
Yeah.
The guy is brilliant. He is an underrated as a comedian, as an improv, as
I agree.
I think his personality and his personal issues and whatever keep you from appreciating how really good he is in this and in everything else that he's in.
Underwater is another one that I loved him in. For that same reason too.
He unfortunately, because of the issues, he may not be a guy you see very often.
Right.
Especially after this, latest whatever.
Yeah, they already said he's not coming back for Deadpool 3. They've already written him out of the script.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a shame because he's brilliant in that too. He's great in Silicon Valley, and he's even great in Get Him to the Greek. The whole 5 minutes he's in it, Yeah. Just he's fantastic, but with brilliance comes a little bit of idiocy.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So I mean, we get very similar to 9/11. You get I think the collapse of the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
And you get the smoke, and that's when Rob realizes that, or he gets the call from Beth. No, then there's the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes.
Oh
the Brooklyn Bridge. Holy shit!
I yelled "Holy shit" at that moment, dude, to my TV, because I forgot where that tentacle or a tail or whatever it is just comes out of nowhere and just takes out half the bridge.
Everybody is trying to make it across the Brooklyn Bridge. They're trying to get out of Midtown. And sorry, I'm trying to set these up so we get some visual aids to go with it, if that helps.
That's another recall to 9/11.
Yeah. Yeah. People just evacuating and trying to get out of the city. And I mean, this is where it really does kind of start to break down. And then, because I mean, like, what happens when they come out of the building? The Statue of Liberty, the head appears, it comes flying at them. Okay. And then there's some downtime. And then the Empire State Building comes down, and then, that happens. And then there's some downtime. And then they're like, okay, we gotta get out of the city. We got to get out of the city now. We're going to go across the Brooklyn Bridge. But this is the point in the movie where the action kicks off and really kind of doesn't let up for the entirety of the movie, which is probably another 50 minutes or so left in it. And you're right. When Jason Rob is trying to hear Beth or get that, and that tentacle, just or the arm or whatever it is, and that's the great part about it is, and we haven't talked about the creature at all. You really barely get a look at it,
Right?
and you never really get a full look at it.
That's what I was watching this with my daughter, and she loved this scene here. Because we just saw the tail, but she's 10, so she's like, when are we gonna see the monster? When are we gonna see the monster? So she's also 10. She's not watching all of it, so she's going in a room and this and that. So when I finally called her out, I think we finally see it the last maybe 15 minutes. She was just amazed at how cool the design was.
Yeah. Now, here's something I've been thinking about. Abrams clearly says he wanted an American kaiju, but the design of the creature, which we can get to in a little bit, it almost looks more like a Lovecraftian kind of.
That's what I was thinking.
Thing. Obviously, it's not a Lovecraftian, from that, it's not underwater, it's not a Cthulhu, or these, but the creature design looks more like something you would see out of Lovecraft than the kaijus that we would see from Godzilla or the MonsterVerse or Pacific Rim or these sorts of things. It's
good on Abrams for doing that, for trying to distance the American kaiju movie away from anything that would even smell like something from Tojo Productions. He's completely making it his own, an American giant monster, which we've been sorely lacking. Our giant monster game was horrible up until now.
Well, we haven't had. Well, we've got the MonsterVerse, but again, those are the Toho characters. I can't remember the last time we've had a good old fashioned monster. This is 2008. This is 15 years old.
The closest we get is King Kong, which is our claim to fame. That's the American kaiju, but that's also Love Story, and it's a whole different thing. It's not a giant reptilian creature eating people.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
No. This is an actual monster. Yeah. Kong just wants the Kong thing is a tragedy. I hate that story, but
he just wants to be left alone.
Yeah. Kind of, sorta. So from
Leave
here,
me alone, my blonde.
Yeah. From here, it basically turns into a rescue mission.
Yeah.
Here it basically turns into a rescue mission, and the four of them. And I imagine you're right in the sense that that's Rob's frustration, is that everybody wants to tell him what to do, but if he doesn't do what they want to do, they just keep yelling at him. We got to do this. We got to do. I'm going over here to do this. You guys can evacuate, and then they just keep following,
doing his own thing.
Yeah, and he's like, the crowds are over there. Just go join them. The police are telling you where to go. This, that, or the other. I'm not crazy. This is what I'm going to do. But, they just, I think they've placed him in the position. He seems to be like the leader of that whole group anyway. You get that impression even at the party, like Rob is the main guy.
Right.
And Rob is leaving. So, everybody's going to the main guy. And so with that comes a lot of frustration, especially in a situation like this, which he actually handles very well. He just kind of says, look, this is what I'm going to do. You're welcome to join me. If you don't want to join me, no hard feelings, but this is my thing. And, this is the way it's going to be.
I always found it was funny that when the people were complaining to Rob about letting the girl get away, are the same ones that are telling him, will you let her go? We got to go this way.
Yeah, let's not go get her.
That's a good notice.
This isn't a Melrose Place anymore.
Yeah.
It's not Melrose Place anymore. This is, all of a sudden there's a fucking, huge, freaky fucking monster. This
the girl I love is trapped under a wall.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's kind of like, but Rob,
Rob, what are you doing, Rob?
Before we take a moment, I noticed one thing about the bridge that nobody ever talks about. This is the most quiet monster I've ever heard.
Oh,
because all of a sudden he's there. Like you heard the girlfriend start raising her voice, but then the tail comes and then there's the noise. It's later on too with the army. They're walking down the street with a tank in it. You don't hear them until they start shooting at the creature. right on top of them. I thought that was brilliant, but I'm like, this is the most quiet monster I've ever heard. It's like sneaking through New York.
I think part of it is that I think people really, until it starts to get really bad at the end, I don't know that he necessarily the monster considers them they're not exactly a threat to him.
Right.
Like throughout the whole movie, you're kind of seeing that whatever they do really doesn't work.
He's just
that's
annoyed.
Kind of what makes it frightening. You know, like especially, I mean, when we get to the army, and that's one of my favorite scenes where they just they walk into that street, and all of a sudden it just crosses right in front of them, and they don't realize that the Marines or the army have been behind them the entire time. Right. That huge battle. It's like a 60-second battle. But it's just like one of the most intense things.
That's what I like about this movie. We have little bits of the army attacking it in the background, just, you know, here and there. So you know that it's such a threat, and this threat is ongoing. They just can't stop the fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing they did in the first American Godzilla movie, too, where the monsters were secondhand. They were just sort of in the background, whether you were seeing them on the TV or whatnot. Same thing here. They're so concerned about their mission, about their friends, about what they want to do, that they just are completely, you know, it's a complete blind spot. Oh yeah, that's right, there's this giant monster behind us, and oh yeah, there's tanks right there.
Yeah, it's like it's television.
They didn't notice it, and then they're there because it breaks them out of their little box.
I had a friend of mine who was a writer who said you could take the monster out of here and make it a giant tornado. You know, but that would be the same thing. There would still be that urgency and everything else. Adding the monster really makes it special, you know, but it's that intensity saying they're focused on what they have to do. And so's the army, and so's the creature, and you know, they all have their own little jobs. But
again,
there's a great scene. There's a great subtle thing. I think before they go to the bridge, Marlena is traumatized, and she's sitting on the curb. And they're like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And she just looks up and goes, "It's eating people."
Yeah.
So that was very subtle. You might not even catch it, but so powerful. She knows what's going on. The rest of them are all confused.
Oh, yeah.
She, you know, had stared into the abyss. This thing is eating people off the street.
And that's the thing about Lizzie Kaplan's performance. It's so like understated. Whereas everyone else is freaking out. She's like the one person who manages to keep it together the entire time, or at least, you know, doesn't get into the shouty, screamy phase. Because on the opposite end of that, you have T.J. Miller,
right?
You know, who's in panic mode for almost the entirety of the entirety of the action, contrasted by her. So to hear him scream "Rob" for the 45th time, you know, it sort of loses its impact. But no, Bill's right. When she says one thing, you know, considering she barely says anything, you know, then you're like, oh, okay. You know, like when they're having the conversation and she was just like, "You don't think I'm the type of person that would come back for you?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing, you know, because she's barely said anything the entire time.
She's the perfect example of less is more.
Yeah.
You know, and it works. It really does.
Yeah. So, I mean, this scene this is maybe my favorite scene, just the army scene right there. And then from there, excuse me, just the last bit of the hack. Pardon me. Take it for a second, guys. Excuse me.
Actually, during the scene when they were actually shooting at the creature, I remember thinking, okay, this should stop soon. Because every other movie I see, it's kind of just like bang, bang, bang. No, the full onslaught. And then all of a sudden he turned around and adds to it. Like the creature kind of just like shrugs it off.
Yeah.
And you're like, God, he doesn't even scream. Like sometimes a creature will get hit and you lashes out. And you don't even hear that.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's more of an annoyance. You know, this creature is annoyed by what the army is doing. You know, it knows it's not. It's like when you go outside, it's summertime, and you're just attacked by a bunch of fucking mosquitoes. You know what I mean? You're just swatting them away, and you know it's not hurting you. It's just annoying the hell out of you. It's ruining your day, and then the army's ruining this creature's day. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
And the creature's supposed to be a baby.
Yeah.
It's not a full-grown creature. It's
Yeah.
all confused and lost and probably looking for its mom or whatever.
Exactly.
And trying to get out of this weird obstacle course in
And
that.
all these fireflies are shooting at me.
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
Exactly.
I love that, because if you take the concept that the creature was a child or a baby, as horrific as it was, some of the actions you can go, well, of course it was going to do that. It's a baby. It doesn't know.
Yes.
Right.
You know, I mean, not like an adult would know, but it would, you know, that type of deal. I love that, you know, added to it.
And then it adds that extra little oomph when the parasite creatures start falling off of it right in the middle of that battle. We're talking about the tank battle, and then all of your attention's taken off of this giant monster because there's a dozen little weird dog things that are going to come and eat you.
Yeah, those are nasty, particularly nasty looking fucking things. And you know, you can say it isn't the big monsters that get the fucking army falling back. It's those Rottweiler sized things that are suddenly just chasing them down. You know, and you see those army guys start to run, and you know, a couple of them get pounced on, and you're just like,
it's
holy
like
shit, what is this?
It's like Alien, you know. We're all scared of the xenomorphs, but it's the little face huggers you got to really watch out for. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about aliens. The scariest scene to me is the two face huggers with Newt and Ripley.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, those two little fucking ugly things. You know, and plus you're thinking of it grabbing poor little Newt. You know, you're like, no, come on, man, don't let it happen to Newt. You know,
and in the first one, where the little thing popped out of John Hurt.
Yeah,
that's the one that freaked the people. You know, I was calling them with a friend of mine. We were calling those little parasite things dwarf Star Trek troopers bugs. Because that's what they reminded us of, was the little bugs from Star Trek Troopers. But they were so small, they were like, you know.
So I mean, at this point, you know, they go down into the tunnels and decide, this is particularly rough.
This scene here, like I said, I saw it in theaters. This scene was so scary.
Yeah.
On the big screen in the dark. And you're seeing just exactly what they're able to see, you know, with HUD's camera. And then, like, I think I said it in our Hangout stream. We were talking about Hereditary, you know, when Tony Collette's just hanging like Spider-Man, like in the corner. You just see it. When you just see that little parasite drop to the ground.
Yes.
And then they start attacking. But that part is scary, yes, when they're attacked. But I think the scariest part is when you just see it drop to the ground, because you don't know what these creatures are going to do.
That reminded me of Blade. That
they,
too. The same thing with those weird alien vampires. The same thing, crawling and then drop down and come after you.
To me, it all started with the rats.
Yes.
And the rats were running away, because that's the first thing I thought, was that they're running away, and I went, and I said it almost at the same time. What are they running from?
That's when my daughter pointed that out too. She says, because that clicked for her before it clicked for me. She says, Dad, they're running the opposite way. Why are the rats scared?
Why are they running? Yeah, that's exact. Because all I thought was rats leaving a sinking ship. You know. And then
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that bizarre noise that they fucking make.
Oh my God!
You're like, oh, what the fuck is that?
Oh God,
Jesus. Yeah. It really, I mean, I think that's part of the advantage in many instances with found footage. You don't have huge budget, I imagine. I'll look up the numbers on Cloverfield in a little bit. But, you know, you're only getting, this is what worked for the Blair Witch Project. There was no witch. You know, that's absolutely what worked for the Blair Witch Project. That scene where they're in the tent, and you hear like the children, like coming up to the tent. And now, you know, you see it, and we know that it's just like people just hitting the sides of the tent. You know, when they're in there trying to bunker down, and I think the one guy is already missing. And you know, Heather takes off, and she's like, "Holy shit, what the fuck is that?" You know, and you can't even see what it is that she's looking at.
Right.
But it scares the living shit out of you. Something you can't even see.
And in a sense of brilliance, going back to the director, they said, oh, wait, put on the infrared.
Yeah,
you
put
know,
on the night vision.
night vision, and you go complete dark, and when it comes up green, you just see all the creatures
Yep.
surrounding them.
Sitting there staring at them.
The
Scary.
first time I saw that, I screamed out loud, and I won't say it to the point where, oh! And the whole movie theater like screamed at the same time because that's my first reaction was, oh, boom! You know, because you just saw them. It was just you knew something was there, and then all of a sudden, boom! And it wasn't one or two; it was several, a dozen or so.
You could tell that they borrowed that off Cameron from Aliens.
Yep.
You remember when they're like, how the fuck are
Right
they
on us, man?
Yeah, exactly. And then Michael Biehn goes up and shines that light, and they're crawling across the fucking pipes.
And they just welded themselves into the room. Yeah.
I mean, you could tell that. I mean, that's just a straight homage, but it fucking works, man.
And it works.
And it's a lot nastier actually than because I mean, usually when the aliens got you an Alien, that was kind of it. You see yourself get tackled or dragged away or something. Here, these things were like literally biting a piece out of you.
Yep.
Right.
Things had gone along 26 years or whatever since Cameron had dropped Aliens or whatever, or whenever that was it 89?
I think it was 86.
86. Okay, so 14 and 8, so 22 years. Yeah. These nasty things were literally taking a bite, and they fucking get Marlena.
Yeah, and you get to, and you see the wounds too.
There's
some pretty good practical effects.
She's just got these holes.
Yep.
Yeah, she's got some holes and just some like deep cuts, like rips, and you're just like, oh man, that looks fucking awful.
Yeah, they weren't simple bites; they were gashes.
Yeah,
they were gnawing. Yeah,
it was. They were making a snack out of her. Holy shit. And so, I mean, it's just it's pretty much nonstop now at this point.
Out of the frying pan into the fire. Right from there, all of a sudden, now they're caught up in a whole other web.
What do you mean?
When they leave the tunnel, and now all of a sudden they come up in that building basement, and the military's there.
Yeah,
and the hospital's there, and it's a whole bash of
chaos.
Yeah.
It's like this huge fucking triage center or whatever.
What does that one soldier say? He says, "We don't know what it is, but we know we're not winning," or something like that.
We don't know what it is, but we know we're not winning.
Yeah. And I mean, you just that one. They have that one cadaver, and it's just been fucking eviscerated, and you've got other, and then. The surprise comes because I just thought that this was really weird that they suddenly came up into a mall.
Yeah.
And so you get like this 30-second or almost 45-second silence, as they're trying to get their bearings or something like that. And then all of a sudden the military's on them. And then just like that, fucking Marlene is wiped off the board.
Yeah, she starts bleeding from the eyes.
Yeah.
I don't feel so good.
Holy shit. That's an awful scene.
Yeah,
because they take her behind the curtain. They take her behind the curtain to quarantine her, and you just literally see her shadow, and suddenly splat. This big, red splat like hits the curtains.
Yeah, and
this little interlude reminds me of a cross between a zombie movie and that part in E.T. when the government shows up in that tent.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then as soon as it's there, as soon as Marlena blows up, it's done. They're like whisking them out, and it's a whole other scene now. Like they're putting them out on the street. It didn't last long, but it was real effective for that few seconds when you're in there and you're confused, and then all of a sudden, that one soldier pulls them aside, and they're like, "All right, this is what's happening."
I really thought one of the creatures exploded out of her.
That's what I thought too.
First time I saw it, that's like I was waiting for you see a shot of the creature. Like attacking the ones that were trying to strap her down type deal. That's when she exploded that way. And that was such a panic moment driven thing. I just saw it on YouTube tonight and my heart started racing. It wasn't even in the movie theater. That's a great where panic works, where the yells actually, add to it as opposed to being distracting. when he's on, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because they didn't know what was going on. Brilliantly done.
Mm-hmm.
The quick transitions.
Yeah.
From one thing to the next, and again, this is the great part about a film that, just has a great script and is very short. Increasingly, we've talked about these types of movies that are very under 90 minutes.
Right.
And increasingly, the feedback that we give, or that I give, and or we give together, is usually overwhelmingly positive. Once because I find that a lot of times, I'll see a movie that's 100 minutes, and I'm like, you could have killed 15 minutes out of this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You could have knocked 15 minutes out of this and had a much better film.
It's a bad habit ever since Titanic was so successful that everyone wants to stuff their movies with extra scenes that just don't serve the plot. It's just
look at the look at the superhero genre. When was the last time you can think of like a superhero movie being like 90 minutes? They always got to be 2 hours plus.
But it also goes to, again, which we always talk about here, is the telling of the story. I mean, I've seen movies that were 3 hours, 3.5 hours long, and when I got out of the movie theater, I went, well, I thought that was like 20 minutes, because the story took you. I've seen short movies that were going, well, that was an hour and 20 minutes long, and I'm going, yeah, it was about an hour and 10 too long.
Exactly.
It was what makes this movie work is you had the good story, they had the great pace, and you had actors that were committed to it. I've seen too many of some horror movies where it's, even with the humor that was thrown in this movie, which was a good amount to break the tension, it didn't become sticky.
Right.
You got right to the next scare or the next moment. It kept you moving. I was waiting to see a little timer in a corner. You have 30 minutes to get out of.
At this point, they add that sort of that element, because they're like, well, man, 6 a.m. hammer down.
We're going to start blowing up the city.
Well, you got to remember also in the very beginning, you see a DOD sort of stamp on this.
Yeah.
So maybe what you're looking at is the government edit, whatever. But whatever it is, it just goes from boom to boom to boom, incident to incident to incident, to then the next thing, and then all of a sudden it's just over with, and you're like, fuck, that was why can't more movies be like this? Why do I need blah 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 or whatever this was, or why is this in here at all, or this how do you not see that? Like when you're writing it, how do you not see that when you're screening, for a test audience? How do you not, like if I can see it or we can see it, how does someone out there not, make that determination? And it just it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. But
I guess when they're spending $100 million in budget, they want 3 hours worth of movie. It just seems like. It seems like the finances are going to dictate the editing. Some executive somewhere is like, well, I want 3 minutes worth of this scene with this car. Those larger budget movies just are out of control.
Yeah, they kind of are. So that brings us to where are we next? Well, we're in the middle of the streets, right? And we've got to still go get Beth.
Yep.
Yeah, we got to go out to the circle and grab Beth. And this was the funniest line for me from HUD. He's like, well, why don't we go up in the other building and then we can drop over? And then everybody looks at him and then they start going. He goes, wait, I really didn't mean that. That's not, they never fucking listen to me. And now the one time when I say something,
they listen. Yeah.
Now they fucking listen. And again, that was another great shot of the two buildings. Because it just looked like this fucking apocalyptic, sort of thing. You're like, holy shit, the whole fucking skyscraper, the whole building is just fucking collapsed.
It's just leaning on another building, isn't it?
Yeah. And they end up going up there, and I thought that was a pretty intense scene. Especially crossing over the roof. and that whole thing, where they're trying to move, but the buildings, like on a tilt.
Yep.
And they were talking about how difficult that, like the actors were saying how difficult that actually was, even though, obviously they're not up on, like the 39th floor or whatever.
Right.
They're like, you got sick. Like it literally like made you dizzy to do it.
Right.
And there's Beth with that fucking rebar.
Yeah.
And she's just a petite little thing. And she's just got this massive piece of rebar fucking sticking out of her, like a fucking meter's length of rebar just sticking out of her shoulder, and you're like, "Fuck, man!"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This movie is just not pulling any fucking punches.
No,
just not pulling any fucking punches.
And it was all realistic, After the building like that, if I didn't see a rebar, I would have been, well, what, man? She's going to be that perfect?
Right.
No.
This is the part where the suspension of disbelief sort of is pushed to its limits, because I find it hard to believe that a girl that was pinned on a piece of rebar and lifted off of it by a couple of people all of a sudden has the energy and the power to run through New York the way they were. But
yeah, she was embracing people a few times.
Something that you always notice, like how the fuck are you running now after you were just stabbed through the kidney with a rebar?
Well, there's a giant fucking monster after you, so yeah, the fucking Cloverfield's after me. So
adrenaline is your friend.
Yeah, I might find. I mean, she'd probably be half dead, and bled to death at this fucking point. Realistically,
what I thought was really cool about that scene, though, is they had to lift her up, and you don't see that. HUD puts down the camera, and you just see their legs, and you just hear the noise.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's really effective too.
Great touch. That's where sound comes in so well.
And you can get away with it without using any type of special effects and spending any money.
Yeah. And it's a good balance between the real graphic stuff that they have in there and then these off-camera scenes where something's happening, but your brain fills in the details. It's like it's call back to like 1938, where all the killings happened off screen, but it was still shocking because the theater of the mind.
And I really think if I saw her get lifted up, I would have then believed that she couldn't have ran through New York. I think not seeing it and seeing the pain
that's true
added to my thing to help make the leap that she could get through. Because I didn't see it. I didn't see how bad it was technically. But what do I know?
I think that something I haven't tried in a while is something I may try for the next movie, especially if we do Midsommar or whatever the movie is. I was it yesterday or Monday? I was on there with Sydney, and we were talking about You Won't Be Alone, and her kids were home because they had an ice storm.
Right.
So she was like, fuck, okay, I got to watch this movie. I'm in the stream at 1:00. She said she tried it with her headphones on. Like she said she had some surround sound headphones or something like that. Nice. And she said that it's a completely different experience listening to all those different effects, especially the graphic thing. Like, because You Won't Be Alone is actually a very graphic movie, and just to hear them all coming through your ears like that, I may actually give that a try for the next flick. And just see what happens. But
that is one thing I miss about theaters. I mean, I haven't been to a movie in the theater in forever, but the sound does really come across, especially in a surround sound theater like that.
You may have seen the Regal around here is about to shut down. It's one of the 39 that's going to be closed nationwide. We're going to lose our multiplex.
Yep.
And we're gaining one down here in about 2 months.
You're getting a multiplex.
Well, the same people who do Harbor Square and Ventnor Square and
okay. Yeah, they're all that's left.
They're doing one down here in the old Rio Grande movie theater, and they're calling it Cape Square since they destroyed the theater in Cape May.
Sure.
Okay.
And they're doing it with the same thing with surround sound and everything else, and it's going to be a beer garden and a bowling alley is their thing, and like a game room. They're saying it's a one-stop dating. Like if it's a rainy day, take the kids to a movie, get them something to eat, and then go to the game. I mean, this guy was talking about it a couple of years ago, But his attitude is make it. I said it sounds like Dave and Buster's with a movie theater, and he went, close, but that's we weren't planning on that. But they're trying to come up with a different theme that's also beyond the movie. So you spend some time really coming out and spending time there.
A game room's got to be difficult unless you're playing. I mean, unless we're talking about old school like shooting pool, billiards, air hockey.
Where it used to be
the basketball, thing, that kind of stuff. Because the kids now just have video games right there in their in their room.
Well, they're talking about bowling and pool, I think.
Yeah, that would work. Air hockey, some foosball, the basketball, this kind of thing, that would work. So, next thing you know, Beth has found the energy because there's a giant fucking kaiju coming after him. To get her ass on the fucking helicopter. And, we're coming to the end of it here, kind of, sort of, although there's still lots more happening. And you find out that, oh God, what was her name? Lily. Lily is the only one who makes it.
Yeah.
That's the way it turns out. Lily, she gets on the helicopter, and then Hud and Rob and Beth get on the helicopter, and that helicopter stays airborne for about what?
A minute.
About a minute. And then all of a sudden, I thought it was really cool that they thought to bring in like a stealth bomber. Now, I imagine this was probably CGI. I mean, maybe they borrowed some Marines, here and there or whatever. But I just thought it was really cool that they thought this, show a stealth bomber just dropping something on this fucking thing. And then, HUD's like cheering. And then all of a sudden it does that fucking, joint vertical leap, about, 10 stories in the air.
That shit was scary because, you see it and it falls like a ton of bricks. And everyone's cheering. Like I said, he's like, HUD's like saying, yeah, baby, stuff like that. What we would all say. But since he's looking down through the camera, that's when we see the fucking creature, like literally
into your face.
Right in your face.
Yeah.
And then because, like I said earlier, because he's holding the camera and they're doing a tailspin or whatever, you feel like you're in there with them and you're looking at your friends going down. And then, boom.
Yeah, and then you can see in the background through the windshield of the helicopter, you can see the ground sort of rising up. I noticed that this time, and I'm like, holy shit, you can actually see the fucking ground, like they're crashing down to meet it. Fuck.
And one of the best things that they did in this movie, which I thought was great, was when HUD was looking down. First he sees the stealth bomber, and he goes, it's not going to hit us, is it? And then when they start shooting at the creature, and he screams, and he looks to the other two. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing? Which made everybody in the movie theater get in there, get closer.
Yeah.
And then he went right back to it, and that's when it jumped up.
Yeah.
That was a great setup for the jump scare.
Yep.
You look at it, look at this, and everybody in the movie theater went, okay. Even though you were staring at it, you at one of those moments again, you pop to attention, and then. Second to the last got you in the movie.
Yeah.
Loved that. That was brilliant.
And then temporarily it looks like Beth takes charge. And they're dragging Rob out of the helicopter, and then goodbye to HUD.
Yeah.
Goodbye to HUD.
Goodbye to HUD. And you get your first sort of distorted look, full look at the monster. And it's just so odd look. Like you almost can't get your head around what it is that you're seeing. And that's why it almost is like some sort of Lovecraft creature. Like, how many Godzilla movies did we talk about this past summer? But we always knew what we were seeing. Whether we like the Mutos or we like Rodan or, Kong or, the final monsters and Kong Skull. This, even though, I've seen this movie probably 50 times, you look at it and you're like, what the fuck am I looking at here?
Right. You can't tell if it's reptilian because you don't see any scales. To me, I think it looks like it has a beak. So I don't know if it's bird-like or whatever. But that was, again, I bring on my daughter again. She's asking me, she's like, what is this? What is this creature? And I just said, it's an alien, because there's no other way to describe how this creature looks.
And that's another great thing about it. And this was one of the arguments against I Trapped the Devil, that people had in the panel, which was that nobody explained anything. And I'm like, that's the great fucking part about it. That's right. The best part. You just dropped into the middle of this at the end. Like you dropped into the end of the story with that movie, like on the last night.
Yep.
Right. And here, again, nobody explains anything. It's never explained to you what this thing is.
Right.
Where it's come from.
What Cloverfield is. Yeah.
Yeah, what Cloverfield actually means. You're never told really, how the story kind of ends. I mean, we see how the movie ends.
Right.
But we don't know what's happened.
And there's so much argument over it.
Where does it come from?
Yeah. Like J.J. Abrams said, it's not from space, it's from the ocean.
Okay.
Now, he has said that in interviews. He said, it's not from space, it's from the ocean.
But I thought people say... Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I'm just going to say, but at the end, there is that scene where you see something come from space and splash down.
And it's weird, because there's people who've tied it to the third movie, that's the actual satellite, and it's multiple realities. It's amazing. They've worked in other movies that should be part of this genre. Ironically, one of them's underwater. The movie with the creatures at the end. Saying they look similar to the creatures that in this movie.
Yeah, but those are just fan theories. Those are fan theories.
The point about it is, there's some people are going, like, for the second and third movie, J.J. Abrams just brought already finished scripts and tied them into the movie.
Right.
Yeah, that's something Abrams
is brilliant at getting people to make fan theories. He's always
the mystery box. He's always got the fucking mystery box.
But the point about it is, it does make
a lot of buzz about it.
It makes people, though, still talk about the movie. That keeps them watching the original movie.
Yeah, because I mean, by the time we got to Cloverfield Lane, that really had nothing to do with Cloverfield.
Right.
Yeah, like that fucking much.
Exactly. But that's the point. Someone said it's a different. They're telling a different story, or the continuation of the story from a different point of view.
Again,
do I buy it? Not completely.
Right. I don't buy
but
it at all.
But there's some of it I can see where they're tying it in. My all-time favorite was when they were talking about it. We were talking about it when Mike stepped off, about the creature being a baby. There's no description of that in the movie and everything else, but that's what they're saying. It's acting more like a baby. Why was it bulletproof? Well, it was underwater. The body had the skin built up to the pressure from being underwater, so it makes it thicker and tougher. There's amazing how much they delve into. And my all-time favorite, the reason why they call it Cloverfield, that was the name of the street that the Statue of Liberty's head rolled down.
In the
Cloverfield Lane or Cloverfield Road or something like that.
It's my hope that they don't come back to this.
But they are,
because what I've seen
is working on number 4 sequel.
Yeah, but is it going to be a direct sequel?
That's the rumor.
I hope not.
Abrams. Who knows what he's going to do?
I hope not, because it's not going to be Matt Reeves.
He's too busy with Batman.
Yeah, I think I did see what you were saying, but it's not.
It's not that clear.
It's not. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not going to hold up.
Right.
It's not going to hold up. This would be much better if you just left it alone. It's a one-off movie and doesn't really require. And I've heard all these. Yeah, you're right. There's all these other things that we're going to show other people's perspective from the same incident. This, that, and the other. But it's been 15 years. Leave it alone. Hollywood's really not in a position right now to be, revisited. I've seen too many IPs get ruined. It's just too many IPs that just get shit on, by some modern fucking asshole, who thinks that they can do it better, and they don't, and they fuck it up, and then that's a good thing. I was just showing Bill that thing, earlier today from Gary's video, and you're just like, just leave it the fuck alone. Just stop.
Well, yeah, you want to hope, just the same way we all hoped that when Lord of the Rings was coming out, you hope they didn't fuck it up, But The state of film today, I have very little trust in what's coming.
I wouldn't bet my grandmother on it. I'll put it to you that way.
I'll give it about 6 months before they tie in the creature from Cloverfield to the creature in Lost that was in the fog. You know, it's all J.J. Abrams. His middle name is Clover.
You know, yeah. I mean, especially if J.J. Abrams is attached to it. I mean, J.J. Abrams from 2008. You know, I have a completely different feeling now about J.J. Abrams in 2023.
Well, and if he's always tying stuff in, who knows? Remember, he did Star Trek as well too, so he can tie it into outer space that way as well.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, you saw what happened with those reboots. I mean, that's actually what they've punned his production company now. They call it Bad Reboot.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, it's just, you know, so I just stop with the mystery boxes, stop with the reboots, stop with the sequels. You know, what Hollywood desperately needs is exactly what it won't get. It's some new IPs. We are in desperate need of some new IPs. Deep, you know, yeah. So that's.
No, you're right. I'm agreeing with you.
No, I don't want to. Yeah, I start talking about this, and then we.
Well, you can have new IPs. You have to supply a lot of IPAs to the people, so they get a little hammered, and you can sneak it in on them.
Maybe that's what Hollywood needs, some fucking drinks and, you know, to bring cocaine back or something like that, you know, because, I mean, movies were fucking...
take a while to shake this off.
We mentioned, I mentioned it during the I mentioned it during the celebration of the second anniversary last week. It'll swing back. I'm starting to feel it now. There's a lot of people who are getting tired of the establishment, so to speak.
Yeah, but it's going to, before that message translates into action by the studios and the production companies, I'd say easily you have another 5 years. These people are going to ride it into the ground.
Yeah,
I mean, you just look, WB is $50 billion in the hole, and look at that fucking roster that Gunn just announced. You're like, what?
Yeah, I think I said it in the
people are getting tired.
I think I said in the group text I was interested in, like, maybe I was interested in Superman just because of Superman, and maybe Swamp Thing and Amanda Waller, and that's it.
Right, but John, what I'm saying is understanding this in advance, understanding this in advance, and he only took the job like 90 days ago. He announces a 10-year plan with those fucking IPs, and you're just like, who the fuck are half these characters? You know, like, I mean, I know who they are, but I'm like, what? So, I mean, what I'm saying is the disconnect between our weariness and them actually stopping, we got a ways to go yet.
Yeah.
So leave Cloverfield alone.
Oh, I know, and I agree with
new movie watchers. They're not impressing anyone with these 10-year plans.
No,
but when you said it was 5 years, and I sat there
more than that.
Yeah, and I said I'm agreeing with you, but I can remember about 2 years ago, some people were saying, "Well, it's going to be 10 years till it swings around." Well, no, it's starting to get. I think people are starting to get frustrated with it.
Right, but that doesn't mean they're going to stop. Because they're indulging their whims.
Right, but if you get the people who are done watching what their whims, and they'll start looking for it, you'll start seeing it getting found on like Netflix or Shiver, or you know, I'll give it like those same 5 years when their indulgences start really wearing thin. That those stations all of a sudden start really doing well because people are going. I think they're going to start looking. I'm hopeful for my horror, you know, type deal.
Time will tell.
Well, something somewhere is going to strike the fancy of young people, and it's going to be good, and it's going to attract, you know, the eye of Sauron eventually. But you know, it's got to spark somewhere, sort of like Kevin Smith and Tarantino back in 1990, you know.
It's either going to be, people just start making their own. You know, we're going to go back to a DIY kind of thing. Yeah. Or you know, because I like I said, I don't think kids are really watching movies. Or it's going to be AI. You know, you're going to see the effect of how AI is going to spill over into this.
Please, the studios are going to write all their movies with AI. It can already do it. with that
I
GCI chat.
yeah, some of these things it sounds like they already are, but
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Give me a
All
movie
right.
that sounds like the Blues Brothers, but it's not the Blues Brothers.
Mhm.
So we come to the end of the film, and I thought it had a real. And again, you know, there are a lot of movies that are good, 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 and then fall apart in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh, well, the ending could have been it, or the ending, Jesus, it just fell apart. I mean, how many times have we said that?
Mm-hmm.
This movie doesn't have that either. Even the ending I thought was very strong, and very tragic.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it's not like, you know, eye-watering tragic, but I mean, like these people have fought so hard to make it.
It's a gut punch.
Yeah, and they're just not going to make it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they go through all that, you know, to get Beth out, and he gets Beth out, and they're together, and they're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess they're going to drop some sort of nuke, or whatever on Manhattan and just let the whole thing go. They're going to have to cut it loose, and you know, that's kind of how it ends, and it ends where you see all those rocks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just get caved in under that bridge, and you know, they're just so frustrated, and you know, they still don't understand why any of this is happening at all, and it's a solid fucking ending. I mean, it just leaves you like oh shit.
And I thought the smart idea was, you know, they're buried under, after the explosion, they're buried under all those rocks, but then we see the last thing we see is the happy footage of them on Coney Island, and I think she says something like, "Today was a good day," or "Today was a fun day." You know, that's what gets you. You know, it's them at happy
that
time.
day that we just watched, wasn't?
Yeah.
And you always have to remember, at some point we win because that's recovered footage by the Department of Defense, so something was cleaned up somewhere. So, you know, collateral damage.
Couple of fucking 90210s. Yeah, 90210s. Who gives a fuck, you know? Fuck them, you know? So.
And hey, Lily got out, so at least one of them survived, you know?
Yeah, Lily gets out. Lily gets out. Lily's kind of annoying, but yeah, Lily gets out.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
We still don't know.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, we've talked in the time that we've talked about it. The whole movie's fucking happened.
Just about.
Exactly.
You know, so solid fucking movie. Matt Reeves, his best work, if you ask me. In my opinion, I haven't looked at the Planet of the Apes in a long time.
Yeah,
I got to get back to that soon.
Rewatch those,
especially that last one with Woody Harrelson.
That one, I think, I don't know if Rise is really good, and it's hard for me to pick between Dawn and War, but those last two, like, they're neck and neck. They're so good. I honestly, like, I know what you say, Mike. You usually after part 3, you kind of just, you know, walk away from it. I'm excited for the next one because of how much I enjoyed.
Another?
Yeah.
Okay. With Andy Serkis, is he coming back? No, Caesar's dead.
Well, I don't know if that doesn't mean we're not going to get Andy Serkis, but I know they are writing it now, and they just added, I don't remember who off the top of my head, they added a couple big names to the cast.
Has Andy Serkis ever done anything poorly? Ever? That you can think of. I mean, I actually have his, and I know some people prefer the old narrator, but I have his Lord of the Rings audiobook. You know, where he reads the fellow. It's beautiful. He reads the Fellowship, and I think I got to the end of the Towers. Yeah, I got midway through the Towers, and I just kind of stopped. I got to come back to it. I have it on Audible. It's beautiful to listen to. He's so good.
Yeah,
he's so good. Man, such an underrated guy. He was one of the better parts of the Batman. He was. I liked his Alfred. He was a good Alfred. He was a good Alfred.
I like him a lot. I think he gets very underrated because he does a lot of the voices and what have you.
Yeah.
But like, I'm one of the few people who, when Sean Astin got nominated for Samwise, the best supporting actor in the first movie,
right?
I felt he should have been nominated for Gollum. And they're all going, well, CGI. I said, no, it ain't.
No,
performance is a performance.
Not that voice, not that emotion, not that was him. That wasn't a machine.
Yeah, and it's great to hear when he does it in the audiobook, to hear it again after 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, fuck, that's Andy Serkis doing fucking Smeagol again. Fuck,
Yeah.
this is awesome.
But and I'm sorry, when I saw that, I'm going, how can they not consider that? Yes, he was a CGI, but that's like John Hurt wearing all the makeup in The Elephant Man.
Right.
I would believe that
if John Hurt's performance coming through that makeup.
If he wasn't so good out of the CGI and out of the costumes, you watch him in Andor, he's putting in a yeoman's performance. That's fantastic.
Oh,
I
he
love
was
that.
great in he was great in the MCU. He was Claw.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the giant puffer fish? So if you're going to scare me with a giant puffer fish, I'll talk. Otherwise, he's just fucking great.
But just
even in the Age of Ultron movie.
Yeah, Ultron cuts his arm off.
He was great in that movie.
Or
Yeah,
just even if we're just talking about his
Black
motion
Panther.
capture, he was King Kong in Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Yeah.
He was really
Was
good.
he really?
He was Kong.
He was
I
Kong.
didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
It was stinky performance. In King Kong, the ship's cook.
Oh, that's right. He was the cook as well.
That's
one thing that Andy Serkis did that I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
That was when they go to the fucking when they go to the island and they get eaten by the insects. That one insect scene. Holy shit, that's intense.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's intense. Yeah, that fight against the fucking giant insects. Yeah.
Anybody who has a phobia for bugs, that freaked them out.
Maybe Cloverfield bugs came from Skull Island. You never know.
Yeah.
All right, so we're at the point now where we rate the movie. And as you know, this show has a rating system of 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, is I'd rather eat a handful of hair than watch this movie again. All the way up to 5, which means this is cinema. This is why I got into this in the first place, to talk about movies. Eric, let's start with Eric. Give me your rating for Matt Reeves' Cloverfield.
This is easy. I'm giving it a 4.5. I mean, from beginning to end, we were having fun picking on them, calling them the 90210 crew, but that exposition, that little bit of getting to know those characters, it was short and sweet. You knew who and who was involved with who, and then the shit hit the fan, and it just went boom, boom, boom from beginning to end. Not a lot of breathing room, for the viewer. And I'm hit and miss with found footage. This one here, I literally felt like I was in the group with them, and that's what made it so much fun. Like I said, I keep going back to the helicopter scene. That shit was amazing. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I'm just taking half a point off is because this is just me personally. Sometimes the shaky cam gets a little bit too much for me, and I get the point. It's supposed to be chaotic, I think it was John who said, when it's shaky like that's because HUD's running. You know what I mean? It makes sense. It's just a little bit too much for me visually. That's the only reason why I'm going to take half a point off. 4.5 for me.
4.5 sounds good. All right, sorry about that. John, what do you got for me?
Well, with this beard, I have an occasion of getting a mouthful of hair all the time. But I'm actually. It was funny because when you were talking about the way you said it, Mike. 5 is the reason why I got into this to talk about it. I'm going to give it a 5. Okay. I was initially going to go with the 4.5, but the more and more I keep thinking about it, it's a great story and wonderfully told with the limitations they imposed upon themselves with the camera and very minimal use of CGI. And when they used it well. Mm-hmm. But the main story, which was these band of young people trying to get out, make sure they all get out. And I loved that. And that's what I think broke at the end of the movie. The first time I saw it, when she said, "This was a good day," and the film ends.
Yeah.
I remember going, "Oh my God." I mean, it crushed me. And I was sitting on a date and the woman yelled at, "Oh, fuck you." And I was like, "Really?" And she's like, And because she was pissed,
Mhm.
you know, that she went through, she saw that they dragged me through this, and I said, listen to yourself. They dragged you through it. And she's like, oh, fuck. I said, yeah, you weren't watching it. You're not watching it. You're in it. It brings you in. And that's basic storytelling. So I'm giving it a 5.
Okay, 4.5 and 5. Bill, what do you got?
Oh, I'll give this one a 5 all day. 15 years, I must have watched it 24 times. Every single time there's something new that I see that's fantastic. And I just cannot say enough about T.J. Miller. I love him in this movie. I've been a fan ever since he's been in this movie. I know he's a troubled guy, and we're not going to see a lot of him unless something happens. But, you know, if what's his name? Ezra
Miller?
If he can come back and play the Flash again, I think T.J. Miller can find.
It's something about the Millers.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're the Millers. Yeah, you know.
There's nothing bad I can say about this movie. You know, American Kaiju, it's top dog. I will put it up against any giant monster movie ever. And I love found footage movies. I love shaky cam. I love the fact that you miss things and the camera doesn't allow you to see the entire scene. You're only getting snippets. That just adds to the mystery of it. And, you know, just this film, just every time you turn around, there's something cool to see. I noticed again today that I might have forgotten. What's his name? Cerrone from The Sopranos plays a cop in this, just for an instant, and then he's gone. You know.
Yeah, Theo Rossi's in it.
Yeah, the guy who plays Beth's new boyfriend goes on to have excellent turns in Mad Men and Silicon Valley. And some other stuff. And when we first saw it, who knew who he was? But all these actors went on to do great things, you know. And of course, Lizzie Kaplan, fantastic. I can't say enough about this movie. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, 2 5s and a 4.5. This movie for me is at the upper level. Like I said, I have cinema, entertainment, and, you know, spam. This is right there on the verge of cinema. Whatever it does perfectly. Very spare, great script, great performances. I can find no fault with it. I can't find something where I could say, okay, you know, they could have done this a little bit better, or this could have been done different. I mean, even 15 years later. My inclination is probably to go with 4.5. But for some reason, because like I can't think of a reason not to give it a 5. I have to give it a 5. So it goes to 5. And usually 5 for me is reserved for cinema. And I this might actually qualify as a different type of cinema. Except I can't pigeonhole it. You know, I can't quite put the round peg through the square hole. But I'm going to go with 5. My inclination is to say 4.5, but because I can't find a flaw, it seems unfair to go with 4.5. I'm denying it a half a point for what? So I'm going to go with 5. I look forward to watching this movie once, maybe twice a year.
It's got great replay value.
Yeah, every 6 months, you know, without interruption. You know, I don't want to do anything else. I want to sit down and watch Cloverfield. And that hasn't changed. This movie has not depreciated in all that time. And I see no reason why it will anytime soon. So, yes, 5s.
Nice.
Okay. There you go.
There you go.
3 5s and a 4.5. All right. Sounds good to me. Okay. I guess, is there anything that we missed that anybody wanted to point out about the film? Anything?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No,
Eric, plug something.
Well, I'm finally getting off my butt, and I'm going to get into. I've said it like the last 3 times I've been on this fucking show. I'm getting into Underworld franchise, and I'm starting with From Dusk Till Dawn first, only because there's less movies and I have to put in less effort and less time to watch them. But it's going to be nothing but vampires on my channel for quite some time. I'm going to do the From Dusk Till Dawn trilogy, and then I'm jumping into 5 Underworld movies, I think it is.
5.
And I've only seen the first 3, so I'm very excited to see where we're going.
Okay. Well, 4 and 5 are okay. Okay. And they're still got Kate Beckinsale in them, and they're still vampires and lichens. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a long time. And to my memory, I think I enjoyed the prequel Rise of the Lycans the most out of the first 3.
Did you really?
Okay. I think, but it's been forever, dude.
Okay. All right. John, anything?
Well, let's see. A week from this Friday, I'm getting my second leg operated on.
Okay.
We're fitting it in nice and tight to get them going. I was told by my PT people, they said, hey, by the end of spring, you might be a new man. And I said, good, because the old one sucks. and it's weird for anybody out there who knows me about with my writing forays. It's been about 1.5 years since I wrote a play. I'm in the process of not only writing a play, I'm writing a book.
Oh, cool.
And actually, friends of mine have been bagging on me for years to write a book. And I started this thing and I'm like, this isn't going to be a play. So I'm going to just flesh it out and see what happens.
Very nice. Kudos.
Very cool.
Very nice. Very nice. Here's to that. All right.
Thank you.
We expect autographed copies when you're done.
Indeed.
I'll give you a hint. If it becomes a movie, I'll let you guys trash it.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah. I'd rather eat a raw chicken than watch that fucking movie. No, I'm just kidding.
I'd rather eat a raw chicken with the feathers.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Bill, anything coming up?
I'm in the middle of downtime, sort of looking forward to getting Otto's Jacket, my band, back up and running in a month or two. But right now, it's just the winter doldrums, reading a lot, looking to play some Dungeons and Dragons, and that's about it.
Oh, before we go, I actually, right after we got off last week, and I jumped off the computer, I looked up, it was a Diarrhea Planet.
Diarrhea Planet.
Oh, yeah.
I looked them up on Spotify, and I'm sitting there going,
Shouldn't I?
oh my God, this is great loud music. I was like wide awake till like 5 o'clock in the morning after listening to a couple songs, man.
Diarrhea Planet.
I cannot recommend them highly enough. It's my find of the month. Thanks to my student,
because
who not only said it once but twice on the air at our radio station at our school. So
I usually don't get into that music. Never did. But I have nephews who play that music. So I'm sitting there going, all right, shut the hell up and learn it. So you can at least talk to them about it. I heard that and I'm going, I got to hook these guys up to this group. Just so they can see it.
It sounds like Mike has a new sponsor for the podcast.
I will. Well, actually, if I can remember, I will. I'll bring it into the gym. I have a garage gym right off to the side of the house there. So I got a power rack, and I'm in there pretty regularly in there. So yeah, I just bring my speaker or some headphones or something, and I'm happy to put it on. Actually, I was talking
about Ghost with a Boner.
Okay, all right.
First song I'm gonna try.
No, because I was talking to Bill one time, and I'm like, "Fuck, man! My back catalog is feeling a little played out."
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not too much that's modern that I've discovered that I enjoy, and so you keep playing the oldies, but then the oldies start to wear a little thin because they're old to begin with.
Yep.
So you're desperate for some new energy, to keep you moving. So okay, if I can remember. I'll look it up. Maybe I'll just do it now and put it in the playlist or something like that.
It's criminal that I'm not doing a radio show right now. So if anyone knows any place where I could do it with my radio show.
That's what you should do. Actually, I don't know what the copyright would be for that, but you should have a channel for like music or something like that.
Can't do it, my brother.
Yeah,
copyright, illegal. Right? I'd have to pay $3,000 a month.
Something else to add into the movie before we take off, only because we're talking about music. I love the fact there was no soundtrack in this.
No, there were a couple of shit tunes at the beginning of the party.
Yeah, but there was no real soundtrack.
There was some good tunes. Gorillaz was in there.
Yeah.
There was some good tunes at the party, and there's actually a mixtape going around, Rob's Party Mix. That
is it really?
Played at that party. and you can listen to it as a playlist on Spotify.
But there wasn't any Hans Zimmer or, it was just like, it was them. And I just realized that too, when I watched it tonight. I'm like,
That helps you feel more like you're part of the group.
yeah. I noticed that. Sorry.
No, that's all right. All right, so for me, I will be back on Sunday with Goraphobe, covering episode 4 of The Last of Us, because we are following that series really closely. And our conversation for the last episode was pretty fucking intense because we were a little confused about what the fuck we saw. Like I don't know if that should have been episode 3, but we'll be there immediately after the episode drops at approximately 10 o'clock. Although this episode went almost 90 minutes, so it was like 10:30 to discuss and review the new episode. I would like to get to this. Next, if anyone's interested. It's streaming on Prime and a couple of other places, but I'll talk to you.
All right. Well, there you go.
I was about to say, Mike, did you freeze?
Okay. Well, there you go. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. So I'll talk to you guys in the chat about it and see if we can put it together.
You got it.
Be a good thing. All right, my thanks to Eric from Hey Internet Eric here.
Of course.
My thanks to John K. Alvarez at the Field of Clovers. And for the Kaiju Box Hero, my thanks to everybody in the chat. We'll be back on Sunday. And take care, everybody. Have a good one. And go find a good movie to watch.
Cheers.
Bye, y'all.
Later.